documents that Health Canada has generated, texts, memos, reports, issues notes, that were developed over a 7-year period from 2001 to 2008. And it's a fascinating stack of documents to read through, and just to see the evolution of, like, first reactions, what the hell is ayahuasca? You can tell that most of these bureaucrats never heard about it. And then kind of learning and seeing, I guess, some respect from what they've learned from the literature. But I think the most important factor, so I'm going to go through a few of the factors in the decision-making process. So this has not been finalized. They've said they've approved in principle. They notified the church that they approved in principle, but they're waiting for export permission from the Brazilian government, which is going through its own process with the different churches. They've got a committee set up, and they're looking, because this is an issue not just for Canada, but for many countries around the world where these churches have established chapters, to allow the shipment of the tea from the mother churches to the daughter churches in different countries. So the factors that Health Canada were looking at were, is this a bona fide religion? That seemed to be a really important one. Although I have not yet seen a definition of how they decide what is a bona fide religion. I think they didn't have to worry about it too much, because I think they were satisfied with the fact that this is about 80-year-old religion. It's recognized by the Brazilian government and legal for the Brazilian practitioners, the Brazilian congregations to use the sacrament. So whether or not some other kind of religious group trying to use a substance in this way could get away with it is an interesting question. The safety concerns, so they looked at the risks. Unfortunately, ayahuasca doesn't seem to have a lot of health and safety concerns beyond sort of providing a safe context. It doesn't seem to create a lot of risks or harms in terms of physical or psychological safety. They were very interested in the use of Santa Maria. There's been a use by the group that spawned Seo de Montreal of cannabis as an adjunct sacrament, which is obviously not as well looked upon by Health Canada. So the church here made very clear that they would not be using any cannabis in addition to the Santa Daime, the name of their sacrament. They were worried about risk of diversion and abuse. So they're worried that there might be a black market for this, and that the tea or the sacrament would get diverted to it. But it seems that they've agreed on protocols for storage of the tea and shipment that would prevent that. The biggest concern, in my estimation, is the risk of going to a charter challenge, and the government, they redacted or blacked out certain parts of it, including legal opinions. So I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that they've said we would lose a charter challenge if we went to one. That in all these other cases that I mentioned, including the United States, religious freedom has prevailed. So it's very unlikely that the charter right challenge would be lost in Canada. Some factors that they didn't consider were stakeholders beyond the federal government. They talked to the church, they talked to other branches like the RCMP, Canada Customs, etc. They didn't talk to the provinces and territories, so the stake in health and substance use policy prevention issues. They didn't talk to other ayahuasca using communities, even though Health Canada knows that there are other ayahuasca using communities in Canada. And they didn't establish any kind of research agenda, which I think is really disappointing. There's very little research that's been done on ayahuasca. There needs to be a lot more. And what they said is that they're going to allow ayahuasca only for religious use, not for medical purposes, even though medical and therapeutic aspects, I think, are what are most valuable about ayahuasca, or I shouldn't say most valuable, equally valuable to the spiritual component is the healing. And in traditional indigenous cultures that use it, that concept of the division between health and spirituality isn't in place in the way that it is in our thinking. So ayahuasca's I wanted to get onto the healing aspect. I'm not going to have time, I think, because I'm running out. But the music therapy element of ayahuasca is really key. All the groups that use it, traditional and the churches, all incorporate singing and chanting as part of the experience. And I think that's a huge research agenda opportunity for looking at how music interacts with the experience and how it is that it's kind of evoked by the ayahuasca experience. So the sort of bottom line is, I think ayahuasca represents a kind of tabula rasa for drug policy, in that it doesn't have any baggage, sort of cultural attitudes to things like peyote, psilocybin mushrooms, entheogens in general, or psychedelics in general are, those are taboo still and not considered very favorably by the state. But ayahuasca comes along, it's got the sort of weight of traditional indigenous practice behind it. I think there's potential for it opening the doors for different kind of drug policy regime. And as I say, in Canada at least, it's going to be allowing the first recognized legitimate use of a substance for spiritual purposes. So I think I'm going to leave it there, and if anybody has any questions, you can ask me them at the end.